This video is presented by MyBookie.ag. Boys, the card took a hit. 2 fights pulled out last second. Ilia Topuria reportedly pulled out of the fight. He was told to stop cutting weight, he had a health concern, and this was a huge hit to the card because honestly, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Jourdain was the best fight on the card. That was the one I was most looking forward to. Man, I even made the whole edit and the whole breakdown for that fight. I was so excited about it, and it's a bit of a bummer. Charles Jourdain was a short notice replacement. It was actually supposed to be Movsar Evloev versus Ilia Topuria. That fight was way better in my opinion, but this kind of stuff happens. And the other guy is Rodolfo Vieira, who was also a guy a lot of people were looking forward to. He pulled out of his fight as well. So now we're left with an 11 fight card. It still has some good talent. It still has great fights. It doesn't have the star power of some of the other pay-per-view cards, but the way they put the fights together, it's going to be exciting. We have some amazing fights starting from the prelims all the way to the main event. Jack Della Maddalena versus Pete Rodriguez. That is a fight between two guys that are always going for the finish, puts 100% effort into everything they do. Trevin Giles versus Michael Morales is a great fight as well. Raoni Barcelos versus Victor Henry is a great fight. Cody Stamann versus Said Nurmagomedov. Michel Pereira versus Andre Fiallo is going to be insane. Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo 3. And of course, Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane. Even though the card took a big hit, there are some great fights not to be missed. With the real fight of the night out of the books, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Jourdain, in my opinion, was the fight of the night. This time, I'll have to go with Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo 3. This is an excellent fight as well. If the excuses were true for last time, and Deiveson gets his weight cut corrected in this one, this fight should resemble a little bit of what the first fight was, or at least like the closeness, the excitement, the entertainment, and the skill of the first fight. I'm going to say the banger of the night is going to go to Jack Della Maddalena versus Pete Rodriguez. The prospect of the night, because Topuria is out of the card and Rodolfo Vieira is off the card too, we're not left with a lot of great prospects. I might just have to go with Jack Della Maddalena for this one. The fighter of the night, I'm probably have to say is Francis Ngannou. There's a lot riding on that fight for him. And under the radar, he is becoming one of the greatest heavyweights of all time. He goes and beats Ciryl Gane after everything he's done in his career so far. There's not a lot of heavyweights you could put above him. And I have to say the stake of the night, the fighter who's in somewhat hot waters, is also going to be Francis Ngannou regarding the whole contract situation with him. This is the last fight on his contract. He's looking to test free agency, but if he loses in this fight, his leverage as a free agent is going to drop significantly. And with all that out of the way, because it's a short card, because we took a big hit on the card, we're going to be starting with Cody Stamann versus Said Nurmagomedov. This is a fight between opposites. You have Cody Stamann, who really likes to stay disciplined, fight by the fundamentals, fight by the basics. He's good at pretty much everything. He has decent boxing, decent kicks, good wrestling, good jiu-jitsu. He's strong, he's fast, he has a good chin, great cardio. And then on the other hand, you have Said Nurmagomedov, who throws more spinning back fists than jabs. He is a Pandora's box. When he opens up, random stuff just comes out. Spinning kicks out of nowhere, crescent kicks, question mark kicks. He's a big kicker, really doesn't like to throw his hands too much unless it's just wild spinning back fists and stuff like that. And a great way to describe Said is, he is complex, but not in depth, if you know what I mean. A great fight to look at is when Raoni Barcelos fought him. In the beginning, because of Said's offensive complexity, it took Barcelos a bit of time to get used to it. But when the second and third rounds came, he was starting to figure out the timing of the kicks and what to do against them. He was able to get Said's back because he kept spinning, always taking off the same kind of angle for the spinning back fist or the spinning back kicks. And that is absolutely something that Cody Stamann could do as well, because Cody Stamann, just like Barcelos, sticks to the fundamentals and has a really good wrestling background. The danger that comes fighting Said is the fact that anything can hit you. You really have to stay methodical in the fight. You can never get out of position, and you have to use the first round to feel it out. My prediction for the fight, I'm gonna have to go with Cody Stamann, and I'm gonna go by a decision win. I think the first round is gonna be a little bit dicey, but you do have to know that Cody Stamann does train with Derek Cruikshank, who also throws a lot of crazy spinning techniques out there, and I believe sparring with Cruikshank is gonna be good for him to prepare for this fight. He could get caught by a head kick or something crazy like that, but the higher probability, I think, is Cody Stamann being patient, finding his openings, letting the first round ride up just to feel the timing, and then start really implementing on his pressure and wrestling to take control of the fight. Wow, that's interesting. Said is almost a 2-1 favorite. And he's actually getting bigger as a favorite as time goes on. People probably think that Said is some sort of amazing wrestler because of his last name, but that's not really the case. And then we go to the co-main event. Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo 3. This right now, I believe, is the best fight on the card. If I'm not wrong, this is the first trilogy in the UFC's flyweight division. First one was a draw because Deiveson got a point deducted. When you look at the fight, Figueiredo was winning the majority of it. The second fight, Brandon Moreno turns it up to another level and makes short work of Figueiredo, actually submitting him, which is pretty crazy. But there were some excuses from Figueiredo about that fight. He had a hard time making the weight, and apparently he was in the hospital the night before he fought Moreno. Deiveson's huge. The guy walks around at like 165 pounds sometimes. When he's in shape, he drops down to like 152. I don't know how true all of this is, but if it is, him making the weight comfortably and looking good out there is definitely going to impact the fight of which way it's going to go. If he shows up similar to how he showed up in the second fight, or the weight cut just continuously gets harder and harder every time he fights at this weight class, he's way too big here. He should be fighting at bantamweight. Every single time they fight each other, Moreno's chances of winning the fight is going to be higher and higher. We have it on record. Deiveson is apparently in the best shape he's ever been in, right? This is according to him. This is according to Dana. He's in phenomenal shape for this fight. No excuses about the weight because he's choosing to fight at flyweight. He should not be a flyweight. He should be fighting a bantamweight. So there's no excuses this time. We're going to be looking at this fight like Deiveson Figueiredo is in the best shape ever. Now the fight changes to be a lot closer, more competitive, and it's definitely the fight between two of the best flyweights in the world. Figueiredo has to fight by pressure. He needs to be the bully in the fight. It's going to be so hard for him to beat Moreno in a technical fight. The dirtier the fight is, the more brawling of a fight this becomes, the more it's going to favor Figueiredo because of his massive power advantage and how much more physical he is. He's extremely athletic as well. But Moreno is shown to be faster, better technique in his punches, better timing, and when you look at the difference between the first and second fight, Moreno got better. His jab was way more precise. He was a lot more confident in his techniques out there. It looked like he figured out Figueiredo from the first one. Because when you look at the first fight as it was gradually playing out, Moreno was becoming more successful in getting the body lock, in finding the jab, in going to the body. When you look at the second fight, which is another gradual progression of their competition against each other, Moreno's jab was way better. He even dropped Figueiredo with it. Of all people, Figueiredo, who has an insane chin, his defense is generally just walking through punches sometimes. And he got dropped by a jab. That is alarming. If Figueiredo cannot take a jab from Moreno like that, this third fight is going to be dicey for Figueiredo no matter how the fight plays out. But not only that, his left hook to the body, right overhand over the top, his body locks are quicker than before, and the sharpness of his back take makes even going to the ground for Figueiredo dangerous. Because what we most likely know is, Moreno is going to be even better in this third fight than he was in the second. It's up to Figueiredo, who trains with Henry Cejudo now, to make those kind of technical adjustments and game plan adjustments for the fight to create some kind of difference here. The faster he draws Moreno into a brawl, the faster he makes the fight ugly, the faster he swarms Moreno, the higher his chances are going to be for victory here, because technically he's not going to be able to compete with Moreno that well unless he made those adjustments, man, unless he's the different fighter training with Henry Cejudo. So ultimately, my prediction for this fight, man, this is super tough to call. It's a close fight in my opinion, but I'm going to have to lean to Brandon Moreno here. I just think that jab is going to be so controlling of the fight. Constantly pumping it out there. It's probably going to keep Figueiredo away from pressuring him. And if Figueiredo's not going to be able to pressure him because of that, and also the body locks, which is going to neutralize the aggression, Figueiredo's game plan is going to have to change dramatically for this fight to something we've never seen him do before. Figueiredo's chances of winning the fight is just generally going to be the power difference, which is going to be a similar dynamic of what the main event looks like, right? Francis Ngannou is not going to beat Ciryl Gane technically. He's going to have to rely on his power and try to be somewhat precise in his punches. Same thing here for Figueiredo, but Figueiredo's head kicks and stuff like that are going to play a part. And then we go to the main event. In my opinion, the best heavyweight fight of all time. Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane. Former training partners, complete opposites of the spectrum. The most powerful fighter versus the most technical fighter. This fight could potentially determine which way the heavyweight division's future is going to go. And I made a few breakdowns about this fight. My last one went in depth about what the two have to do, especially for Ciryl Gane. As, you know, for Francis Ngannou, there isn't a lot of paths to victory for him. It's just punch him, that's pretty much it. But being honest, he does have the leg kicks that could possibly do some damage to Ciryl Gane early in the fight. If his wrestling has progressed to a level that Gane cannot deal with, because we do know that Ngannou took down Stipe Miocic, that is going to be a game changer for this fight. If he could take down Ciryl Gane, that changes the whole perspective about how this fight can go down. But those are the things that we don't really know about, because we don't know how good Gane's takedown defense is, and we don't have a good gauge of how good Ngannou's offensive wrestling is. But I have a feeling someone is going to attempt a takedown here. But the things that we do know are that Francis Ngannou's right uppercut is going to be his best friend, sticking behind a jab is going to set up a lot of things for himself, and intelligent pressure is going to be key for his victory. But usually Ngannou's not that kind of fighter. He likes to stay in the center of the cage and counter you. That game is going to be hard to play with when you're going up against Gane, because Ciryl Gane's just so much faster than Ngannou. He's so much more athletic. He has so much better footwork. He's constantly switching stances, which is going to throw off the leg kicks. It's going to throw off some of the angles for the punches. It might even throw off the takedowns if Ngannou even attempts them. His jab is going to be able to control the majority of the fight. His leg kicks are also going to be devastating as well because Ngannou doesn't really check leg kicks. He even got dropped one time by JDS of all people. So the side kicks to the knee, the outside leg kicks, and also conditioning for head kicks and body kicks are going to be huge for Ciryl Gane in this fight, and also just attacking the body in general. Gas off Francis Ngannou. Don't go too heavy with the southpaw left hook to the body, but just merely jabs to the body, teeps, snap kicks, round body kicks, and stuff like that are going to be key for his victory as well. The longer the fight goes, the more it's going to favor Ciryl Gane. And just like I mentioned in my breakdown, feints are the number one thing Ciryl Gane has to fight behind. He has to constantly be feinting different kind of ways. He needs to get Ngannou to constantly react to things, right? The more you react throughout a fight, the more you're expending energy, mentally and physically, because when someone's feinting at you, you're always thinking something's going to come your way. If you start not to mind it and not waste that mental energy, something might come at you. That's why feinting is so important in MMA. It's different than it is in boxing. It's different than it is in Muay Thai and all different combat sports because there's so many different ways you can feint in MMA. You can feint takedowns, you can feint leg kicks, knees, elbows, punches, spinning attacks, all different kind of techniques. And in the past, fighters have gotten advantages over Ngannou by simply feinting at him. And these guys do not feint like Ciryl Gane does. And man, he just has so many more paths to victory. He has so many more things he could do in this fight. Whenever you think about it, it's almost like more confirmation that Ciryl Gane is going to win. But at the end of the day, when you're fighting Francis Ngannou, you're going to come across that Ford Escort power. And the guy is durable. He can walk through any shot you throw at him and land one of his own. And that's checkmate. He wins. Just one of those moments, and Ngannou wins the fight. As the saying goes, Ciryl Gane's going to be perfect for 25 minutes. Francis Ngannou only has to be perfect for 1 second. And for the heavyweight division, that is so magnified because of the difference in power compared to the weight classes. But there is one other X factor about this fight, that is Francis Ngannou's contract and the whole thing about free agency, his disliking of his former coach, his Tyson Fury offer, and just making money. These could all be distractions and give Ciryl Gane a major advantage in the fight. A lot of the focus around this fight hasn't even been on the fight itself. Whereas for Ciryl Gane, none of these distractions are coming his way. He's only thinking about winning the fight. We don't know how this is going to play out, but it is something to think about. So ultimately, with all that considered, the breakdowns and the X factors, my prediction is I'm going to have to go with Ciryl Gane. And I'm going to go by a 5th round submission. I ultimately see Ciryl Gane playing Ngannou for the first round, feeling it out, poking at him from a distance with jabs, snap kicks, and side kicks to the knee, constantly switching stances to get the angle off from Ngannou's punches, and most important than anything, constantly feint at him. Get him to react to a bunch of things, gas him out doing that, and continue it in the second round. But every round that goes on, the action increases from him. The risk increases for him to the point where he's fighting Ngannou who's a bit tired, let's say starting in the 3rd round, and now he's able to put his combinations together, get into the orthodox stance, and start landing overhands, start landing right straights, head kicks, and all sort of different kind of techniques, and really chop down on the leg. And I could potentially see him dropping Ngannou in the 5th round or taking him to the ground and submitting him with like an arm triangle or a rear naked choke or something like that. But I'm not delusional here. The scenario where Ciryl Gane is looking perfect for 3 rounds and then gets knocked out all of a sudden is a likely one. So definitely do not count out Francis Ngannou's chances of a sudden knockout. And I do agree with the odds on this one. Minus 140 for Ciryl Gane seems logical in this one. But actually what's interesting is when you look at the odds, if you go by a knockout for Ngannou or even Gane, the odds are actually pretty good to jump on. And the best place to go is mybookie.ag. Plus 140 for Ngannou and plus 210 for Gane. For Gane to win by a submission is plus 900. That could seem pretty far-fetched, but the fact that he has so many submission wins in his career, and if he gets Ngannou late, there is a big chance for that to happen. And that goes round by round as well. And Ngannou to win in the 1st round is plus 375. In the 2nd round is plus 650. If he's going to win, it's most likely going to be in the 1st or the 2nd round. And really interesting is, the later the rounds go, the more unlikely on the odds it is for Ciryl Gane to win. Look at the 5th round. Ciryl Gane's chances of finishing in the 5th round is plus 2200. That is not much different for Ngannou, which is crazy to think about. I believe Gane has a better chance of finishing the fight in the 5th round than Ngannou does. But the odds are almost equal. That is something interesting to look at. Not only that, you have Brandon Moreno as a pretty big favorite over Figueiredo. I believe the fight is a lot closer than that. I do think Moreno is going to win, but just like Ngannou, you cannot count out Figueiredo's chances. The one I disagree the most with is Saeed Nurmagomedov versus Cody Stamann. Minus 190 for Saeed is a bit too much. Even if he is to be favored, I don't think it should be more than like minus 140. But I am picking picking Cody Stamann to win the fight. And all over the card, man, there's a lot of good ones, especially for the first fight. Jasmine, I'm not even going to attempt at that last name, versus Kay Hansen. Hansen as a minus 235 is interesting. I don't necessarily agree with that at all. Jasmine is somewhat of a capable striker. She could be pretty slippery on the ground, and Hansen's best thing is ground and pound. She's been talking about that she's feeling better lately. She has some kind of eating disorder before this fight, but stylistically, this should be a tough one for Kay Hansen. And man, a parlay is looking pretty tasty. If you guys want to put up a parlay, just match up fighters who you're confident in winning. And doing that, you can maximize your earnings. But before all of this, make sure to use the deposit bonus, where MyBookie will match up your first deposit all the way up to $1,000. That means, let's say if you deposit $50, you get another $50 in free money to play with, so you have a total of $100. To do this, use the promo code WEASEL, that's WEASLE, to activate this offer. Visit mybookie.ag today where you can win big. And that's the end of the predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.